So I'm gonna walk you through SparkToro, which is a tool I use when I'm developing my marketing strategy and market research. SparkToro uses data from social media accounts such as Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and some other ones to develop audiences. When you first open the SparkToro page, you can see here the search bar where you can gather audiences depending on their interest, on what they frequently talk about, the words they might use in their profiles, so in their bios, specific social accounts that they follow, specific websites that they follow, or hashtags that they use. When you input a social account or a website, these accounts or websites need to be big enough for SparkToro to crawl the social media accounts and gather that kind of information. So what we're going to try today is a simple one, which is nature documentary. First of all, you have to keep an eye on how many people are included in this pool. Over 50,000 accounts is a very big number, so those numbers are going to be pretty reliable. If the numbers are too low, like 100 or below, or maybe 200 and below, SparkToro will not be able to bring back any kind of information. First, you see an overview of the different pieces of data that are available. I'm going to walk you through them one by one now and explain to you how I use this kind of information. So under text insights, we're looking at 4 different types of text insights. First of all, you have the words that they use in their bio. This kind of information is useful to teach you who they are in a more specific way. Most of the time, people will use words to describe themselves, explain what they do, or where they are located, or what they are interested in. So here you see that there is, for example, photographer, filmmaker, or documentary film. That's pretty interesting. The fact that filmmakers are up high in the list means that a lot of those people who are frequently talking about nature documentaries are also filmmakers, probably nature documentary filmmakers. When you're analyzing this data, you have to keep an eye out for the percent of the audience. When it comes to the word filmmaker, 4.6% of the 50,700 people use the word filmmaker. Given how big this pool is actually not much. So this means that you have a very diverse group of people in that case that are using very different words in their bios. So I wouldn't rely too much on this kind of information. When it comes to hashtag use, this is very useful because if you are creating content for this audience, these are the types of hashtags that will be most popular. These are the ones that they are looking up the most and are using the most. So you have wildlife, 6.2%, that's very good, definitely a good one. But then it drops to nearly 4%, less than 4% for filmmaking, conservation, Vimeo, climate. What this is telling us is that a lot of them are into filmmaking. We got that already from the first bit, but also we see the hashtag Vimeo. So Vimeo is probably one of the more popular social media channels that they use. So if I was to promote a nature documentary film, I would keep in mind that maybe Vimeo is going to be a good place for me. Phrases used are also interesting because they will help me understand what kind of content or topics they're most interested in. David Attenborough is the top one, no surprises there, but again, it's at only 2.3%. So I'll keep that in mind when I am building content. They also have diverse range of topics. I'm gonna teach you later how you can combine different audiences so those small numbers can make more sense to you. Word used in my experience is something that's not very useful because they're only picking single words, which can mean a lot of different things. So it's not very helpful, but I always have a look and see if there's anything that comes up that's interesting. Under demographics, you will see the employment, the skills and interest, the gender and age, education, geographic location, and political affiliation. When it comes to employment, depending on the industries and the search terms, these might not be very reliable or might be very diverse. So if I was looking into people who are in filmmaking, then the employer industries and roles might be very relevant because they will explain if these people are directors, if they're video editors, scriptwriters, or producers. In this case, nature documentary is a pretty wide topic. you end up seeing here job roles that are all over the place and at very low percentages. You also see marketing and advertising, which is very often one of the top ones because it's a very broad term and a lot of people are working in this broad industry of marketing and advertising. For your film, this is not something that's very relevant unless your documentary is targeting specific industries, for example, healthcare, then this might be a bit more interesting to you. Same goes for skill and interests. These topics and terms are pretty broad. But if you see something here and you also see it under text and insights and you see it under other data, then it's something that you need to keep in mind. Now, gender and age are pretty reliable. In this case, we see that it's basically 50-50 male and female. Same goes for the age range. That's a very interesting one. In this case, we're seeing that it's a younger generation that's into nature documentary films. So the 26 to 35 would be the primary audience, 36 to 50 the secondary audience. If it was me, I would go with a 26 to 45 in that case. Education is something that's very broad. So what you're looking for here is their educational degrees. So that's interesting. Everything else is not necessarily that important in our case, because it's pretty broad. When it comes to the geographic locations, it's split by city level, state level, and country. LA, London, New York are the top cities. I would consider everything below that interesting, but not necessarily something to target when you have a smaller budget. By state, you have California, New York, Pennsylvania, Texas. So I'm looking for anything that's over 5%. There is more data also. We see Ontario here, so Canada is kind of interesting to us, but it's at 4.7%. And by countries, there's obviously a big majority of people in the US, the United Kingdom, and then Canada, Australia, and the rest. If you are reaching out to certain film festivals, it's important for you to keep in mind if your audience is available in this city, or if they are available in this state, or in this country if you're looking for something outside of the US. If your audience is available in these places, you will know if it's worth investing advertising money, promoting your film in this area when your movie is playing in this film festival. We will talk about it some other time, but you can create Facebook ads or Instagram ads targeted to a specific location. So technically, you can go to a certain film festival and you can invest money into targeting people who have those interests in the city or in that state or in a certain neighborhood or area. Now, this is the interesting bit that will be at the base of your marketing strategy and content strategy. So what kind of content you're creating for those people. First, you have social. So social accounts are all the social media accounts that they follow. Underneath each one of those titles, it'll tell you what are the accounts that it crawled. So in the case of the Nature Conservancy, you have Twitter, the website, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. It's very important to keep an eye on the percent of audience. I usually look for anything that's 5% and above. Eventually, you could target these lower accounts, but for now, if you have a limited budget, just focus on the bigger ones up here. This is giving us an idea of what 9% of those people are into. So Nature Conservancy, the Sundance Film Festival. So if you have a nature documentary, it's definitely a good place for you to go. Even if you cannot screen your movie in there, you will be able to join and meet a lot of people that might be interested. The WWF, IndieWire, a lot of filmmakers on there. So what I'm looking for here is understanding the commonalities. What are the different types of content that I should be able to create? I'm also looking at what type of accounts they are following. Are they following company accounts or are they following individual accounts? Depending on the topic, sometimes here the majority of those accounts are individuals. They're celebrities or they're filmmakers or they're activists. In this case, I don't see a single one that is an individual account. If I was advertising or promoting a nature documentary, I would create content under my production company or under my film, not under my personal name as a filmmaker. I will also be looking at those different accounts and keep an eye on the different social media channels that they follow. So I would go and check the website by clicking on this little icon. Now I'm just picking the first few ones up here, but you would go deeper into that and start looking closer into it. I'm looking for how they set up their website in that case, if I want to create a website, but I will also jump to their social media accounts and keep an eye on what accounts they're using, compare it to their competition, what accounts is the WWF using, etc. Like I see Twitter on all three of them, I see Instagram. For Film Independent, I also see Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Once I do that, I will start checking every social media account and try to understand who they are, if they're popular. So they have 1.3 million followers. But I will also check the engagement of each post and the quality of each post. Very often, I'm noticing that on Facebook and on Twitter, they have a lot of followers, thousands and millions of followers, but then the engagement is very, very low. In this case, the engagement is low when you think that they have 1.3 million followers, but it's still something substantial. Look for the likes and look for the comments as well. Same thing I'm doing here for Instagram. I'm trying to check how many likes they have, and if they have stories, what kind of stories they have, what kind of posts they have. The same for LinkedIn. Twitter, in that case, I see 1 million followers. And then when I'm scrolling through it, I see that they have things like 70 shares and 22 likes. When you think about the number of followers they have, that's very low. On YouTube, I will also see the most popular videos. How many views do they have? Not lots of views, actually. I start thinking that maybe YouTube is not a good choice for them. But this will be confirmed by the other accounts. We will jump to the WWF and check their Facebook. So they have 2.9 million. We're looking at the views, at the type of comments. Twitter, they have lots of them, not a lot of engagement, but still something interesting. And same for Instagram and then for YouTube. They have 46,000 subscribers on YouTube. Their views are at 1K, 2K for the most popular ones, 8K here, but then the rest are in the hundreds, which is not very popular. Something to keep in mind. What I'm trying to do here is try to understand what kind of social accounts are more popular. It's not because everybody is on Twitter that we have to be on Twitter as well. You have a limited budget, you have a limited team, you have a limited type of content and resources. If you're selecting social accounts to focus on, you want to make sure that you're focusing only on 2 or 3 tops and doing it well. So you need to understand what are the most popular pieces of content out there. That's what we're also going to do with the websites. So under websites, you see a list of websites that they visit most often. Also keep an eye on the percent of audience. In this case, it's pretty low. The top one, which is Apple Music, is at 1.7%, which is very, very low. It might not be very relevant to us in this case to look at the websites. I'm just going to scroll through it so you can have an idea of what it can look like. But what you're looking for here are things like Apple Music, Spotify, Facebook links or Twitter links, signs that these are social media accounts that might be more popular with this audience. But again, keep an eye on the percentage. In this case, you see MailChimp, for example, which probably means that they are following a lot of accounts that are sending them newsletters. So that could be a sign that newsletters are popular for this audience, but only if that percentage was higher than 1%. The podcasts are literally telling you what kind of podcast they are listening to. Depending on the audience, this list might be very long or very short. The percentages also might be very low even from the beginning or very high. In this case, you're at 6% at the start, and then it drops to 4, then 3, then 3, and then it goes down to 2 at some point. So podcasts are moderately popular. The list is moderately long, not too long. I'm just going to have a look at the type of podcast that they're interested in. So it's nature-related stuff and film-related stuff. So we're talking to filmmakers that are nature activists. If you're interested in starting a podcast, you would follow the same process that we followed when it comes to the social accounts. So you would pick a few of the top podcasts, you would visit those pages, see what kind of social media they are using, see what kind of platforms they are using to distribute their podcasts, the format of their episodes, how long are their episodes? Are they like 10-minute long, 20-minute long, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours? Are they including guests in their episodes, or are they simple talks? Are they always the same two people that are talking? What are they talking about? What are they doing, etc.? And if you want to create a podcast, then do something that's similar to what you are seeing here, because these are the things that your audience will be familiar with, and you need to speak their language. Also, keep an eye on how often they are posting. The key with podcasts is to post regularly. Every week, preferably, or every 2 weeks if you don't have that much resources. But less than that, it's not going to be very popular. Podcasts need a lot of time to pick up and become popular. The next one is YouTube. Same thing as with podcasts. The list can be very long or very short. In that case, it's pretty short, and the percentages are less than 5% even for the top one. So what we saw under the social page is confirmed here. So I wouldn't go with a YouTube page if I was trying to promote a nature documentary film. But I'm again going to see like a little bit what kind of interest they have. If this page shows you that YouTube is popular, then you can follow the same strategy that we follow for the podcast and for the social pages, where you visit the different pages and try to understand what kind of content is most popular, what kind of videos are more popular, how long are they, how often are they posting, etc. The last one is the press. I have yet to find an audience that is not interested in the media and the press. You'll see here that the top one is at 19%, which is very big. So this is very helpful. A lot of them are often the same, like CNN and BBC often pop up on this list, maybe not that high up. You see the TED Talks in this case. So they are familiar with talks where you have one person talking and sharing their opinions, and they're shorter talks. So if you are creating content, that's something they're familiar with. Maybe you want to go for that. I'm scrolling to see stuff that go beyond the standard Associated Press, The Guardian, New York Times, because these are ones that I often see. Sometimes I see Fox News. So when I see Fox News, I understand that this audience has a percentage of people that might be more conservative in their approach. The Onion is very interesting. So these people have a certain dry humor, or they like the satire. So if I am to create content for them, I wouldn't shy away from something that's less professional, more casual, and more comedic in its approach. Sometimes here I see Medium as well, which is a sign that these people are interested in reading blog posts. If I see Medium here above the 5% mark, I would seriously consider creating articles and sharing them on Medium. Try to go for accounts that are not the major popular ones. Go for the smaller ones that are more specific to this audience. Try to understand their Facebook following, Twitter, Instagram, basically all the social media. I see Pinterest here, and it's pretty popular. So the other accounts that we checked out did not have Pinterest on their social media. So maybe Pinterest is one that is worth considering. Look at the number of pins, look at the interactions, how much they're posting. Seems like Pinterest might be an interesting social channel that the other accounts have missed. This is a quick overview of SparkToro. The ideal way you can use this is to combine different audiences. So I might be creating a documentary film about the wildlife that you might find on the major hikes in the US. We have a nature documentary film audience here, but it's really broad for me. That's not the only one I want to work with. So what I'm going to do is create a secondary audience. So frequently talks about hiking. I might add a location also and say that they are located in the United States of America. There you go. So we have over 100,000 people. That's huge, bigger than what we have for nature documentary. Taking it one step further, I would export the data. Up here you have export all data. And I'm going to do the same thing for that second one. If I go under overview, I will export all data. So this is what the data that we exported looks like. You have way more information. Down here, if you look at the tabs, you still have more or less similar tabs as on SparkToro, a social website, podcast, YouTube, press. bio phrases, share keywords, share phrases, hashtags, etc. So the same interesting stuff down here. This is very useful to organize your data. It doesn't look as sexy, obviously, but it's giving you the website, it's giving you a score. You can organize it by location, organize it by names. It'll give you also the description of the account so you can see what it's about. Then what I've tried to do is combine the two information. So here we have people that talk about nature documentaries, and here we have people who talk about hiking. Now, I'm not gonna show you how I combine it because it's a very long process. I'm just gonna show you the result. So here is one research I was doing about filmmakers, trying to understand the overlap between No Film School, the website, Film Freeway, and people who are interested in filmmaking or call themselves filmmakers. What I'm trying to do here is find this overlap. So I see that I have 24% overlap between No Film School and filmmakers, or a 12% overlap between Film Freeway and filmmakers. I have some formulas here I can share with you that will help you organize the data pretty fast. This is what it looks like when I combine it. So I color code it, and I copy all the data into the same sheet. So all the blue stuff is from people who follow No Film School. All the orange stuff is from Film Freeway, and all the green stuff are the filmmakers. And this is what it looks like. I'm using the formula to visualize the percentage of the audience. I'm also using the formulas to highlight in bright red the accounts that are followed by all three audiences. This is what it looks like here. So you have the podcasts, you have the websites, the YouTube channels, the press and media. And then when it comes to the phrases and keywords, I also use data visualization to find the top ones. This is how I end up building a persona. I'm trying to understand what are the commonalities, and these are the people I'm going to target the most, because these are the people that are going to be at the core of my audience. If I manage to create the right content for this audience, which is at the core of my community, then I'm bound to create the content that will be good also for the secondary audiences, etc. Then at this point, it's about gathering the data and building the personas, which is something I'm going to show you later.